Hello, this is lesson 5, still in module 3. Hey, so listen up. This is the process of proofreading fiction. In this lesson, we will look at the actual work that needs to be done as a proofreader in a fiction work. So it's your turn now. It's your turn. What you will learn how to analyze a story's technical aspects, to ensure that there's good grammar, there's appropriate punctuations, and correct spellings for a great story. Proofreading, people think is the easier part, but we're going to find out whether it is. I agree, certain parts of these levels of work come to certain people differently or easily. Everybody is skilled with a particular idea. I have a staff that has been one of my longest serving. He's great with developmental editing. Oh my gosh. I used to feel like, how didn't you see this sentence structure? How didn't you see this spelling? But this work would have been turned down, turned around, fine-tuned at the biggest picture of it all. And I'm like amazed. Of course, we all should learn all the different parts, but also find your superpower at the level, whether it's developmental editing, copy editing, or proofreading. Proofreading focuses on, of course, the technical aspects of the manuscript. It ensures that the manuscript is free of grammatical errors, punctuation errors, spelling errors, and all of that. Now, there are four objectives you need to ensure as a proofreader. The grammar and the punctuation is number one. You have to correct grammatical errors, punctuation mistakes, and spelling errors. Number two objective you have is to maintain consistency. Ensure that there's consistency in spelling, consistency in hyphenation, consistency in punctuation, and consistency in capitalization, as well as numerical representation. The third objective you have is formatting. Ensure that the manuscript adheres to specified style guides if needed, and of course other formatting standards. Please don't send in a script that looks like something scribbled on it. Please, you are the final and the last editor, if I may call you that. The proofreader is the final editor. From your desk, this work is going to design and publication. Please don't ruin it. Ensure that formatting is tight, is done. The next thing that is your call or your objective is accuracy. Please verify facts to be true, dates, scripture quotations, names, even quotations, scripture verses, to ensure that they are accurate. I beg you. Now, these are the 4 proofreading objectives, and you must carry out all of this in every manuscript that lands on your table. Now, let's get into the process of editing itself. Just like other ones, the first thing you have to do is to review the manuscripts in details. Please be meticulous. Review this work meticulously, focusing on technical accuracy. Number 2, you have to make corrections. Make the necessary corrections to the grammar, to the punctuation, to the spelling, to the formatting, to the numeracy, whatever. Then you come back and proofread again. At the level of proofreading, I do like 3 runs on the average. 3 runs. I'm not even kidding. Proofread again and do a final review to catch any remaining errors or inconsistencies before handing over to the author. You may be the third person in your organization to handle this work. Please, you have to do the rest of the work that the developmental editor and the copy editor left out by any means. Now, let's dive into grammar and syntax for proofreaders. There are commonly 9 grammatical errors that you will meet most times in most manuscripts. Number 1 is the subject-verb agreement. This one, Number 2 is the pronoun and the antecedent agreement. Number 3 is misplaced modifiers. Number 4 is dangling modifiers. Number 5 is comma splices. Number 6 is run-on sentences. Number 7 is fragmented sentences. Number 8 is verb tense consistency. And number 9 is parallel structure. These 9 mistakes always come to bear. I'm going to give you an example of each as we run along Now, what does the subject-verb agreement mean? It means that the subject and verb in a sentence must agree. You're editing to make sure that they agree in number. If it's singular subject, let it be singular verb now. If it's plural subject, let it be plural verb. As simple as that. Now, see a common error. I think I'm going to give you a common error and a correction so that we can understand all of this. Let me give you an example that is an error. The list of items are on the desk. What is wrong with that? Everything, because the subject is the list, just one, but the verb is are. How now? So the correct thing should be the list of items is on the desk. Do you understand? So subject verb must agree on the singular and plural levels. Number 2 common mistake is the pronoun antecedent agreement. Pronouns must agree with the antecedents in number, in gender, and their person. And this one is such a very heinous error. In fact, I even made that error sometime when I speak or write, and I'm like, oh my God, until I catch it myself, I'm like, what is wrong with you? And when you're making this particular error, you know somewhere in your mind that this is not conventional. This is not what it should be. Now, let me give you an example. The expression, each student must submit their assignment on time. Please, where did that there come from? The correct thing should be each student must submit his or her assignment on time. And see, the error I mentioned is becoming mainstream. Each student must submit their. Please, don't make this pronoun antecedent agreement mistake or error, in fact. Number 3, misplaced modifiers. Modifiers should be placed next to the words that they modify. If you're trying to modify a word, place it beside the word that is modifying so that you avoid confusion. Let me give an example. The expression or the sentence, she almost drove her kids to school every day. What does that even mean? She almost drove her kids to school every day. The modifier there, almost, what is it? Do you understand? It's out of place. It's misplaced. She almost drove her kids to school every day. The correct thing should be she drove her kids to school almost every day. She drove her kids to school almost every day. Look at how the modifier is beside the word that they are modifying. Save yourself the confusion. Now, for dangling modifiers, these ones are not misplaced. They are just lacking somewhere. They are disconnected. A modifier that lacks a clear connection to the word that is modifying. That's what is dangling modifier. There's no clear connection to the word that is modifying. Let me give you an example. Running quickly, comma, the finish line was in sight. What's that? The correct thing should be running quickly, comma, she saw the finish line in sight. Do you understand it now? Now, let's look at comma splices. I keep mispronouncing this word. Splices, yes. Comma splices. Incorrectly joining two independent clauses with a comma. That's comma splices. The comma is confused. An example is, I went to the store, comma, I bought some milk. I went to the store, comma, I bought some milk. You're not joining the clauses properly, correctly. The correct thing should be, I went to the store, comma, and I bought some milk. As simple as that. When you join two or more independent clauses without a proper punctuation, you have a problem of run-on lines. The sentence is just running. Two or more independent clauses joined without proper punctuation. An example of an error is, I went to the store, I bought some milk. I went to the store, I bought some milk. No punctuation anywhere in between, just a full stop at the end. What does that even mean? That's a run-on sentence. I went to the store, I bought some milk. Correct thing should be, I went to the store, full stop. I bought some milk. Yeah? So ensure that this is properly done. Let's look at fragmented sentences. Those, of course, are sentences that are not complete. They lack either a verb or a subject. A common error could be something like, because I was tired. You don't know what is causing the tiredness. You don't know what did they do because they were tired. It's just hanging there. It's just incomplete. When you just hear it, you know that there's something else this person is not saying. So don't fragment sentences. If your author has fragmented sentences, please, you have to fix it. Correcting should be I went to bed early, for instance, because I was tired. Look out for fragmented sentences as you proofread, okay? Now, verb tense consistency. Maintain consistent verb tense throughout a sentence or a paragraph. For instance, see a common error. She was running, comma, then she trips and falls, full stop. That's erroneous. Correct thing should be she was running, comma, then she tripped and fell, full stop. Verb tense consistency. You get? She was running doesn't mean it has to be she trips and falls. You okay? She was running, then she tripped and fell. Now, an example of a parallel structure. A parallel structure mistake happens when you use the same grammatical structure for similar elements within a sentence. Using the same grammatical structure for a similar element within a sentence. For instance, somebody saying or writing something like she likes hiking, comma, to swim, comma, and biking. The correct thing should be she likes hiking, comma, swimming, comma, and biking, full stop. So don't use the same grammatical structure for similar elements within a sentence just because it feels like that's the right thing to do. Yeah. So as a proofreader, you have to ensure that the story is clear and readable. To get that fixed properly, you must be concise. Conciseness means you have to, first of all, avoid redundancies, eliminate any unnecessary words or phrases. When people say things like, for example, the reason why is because, what is the reason why? The correct thing should be the reason is. You continue your sentence. To ensure conciseness also, you have to use active voice. Look at the work. Look out for active voices. Prefer active voice over passive because it helps for clarity. Example, instead of saying the book was read by her, no, change it, she read the book. That's the correct thing to use. Make your voice active. Another thing you should do apart from ensuring conciseness is that you have to simplify complex sentences in this work. So the author has done his bit, the editors have done their bit. Please look at the sentences again. How do you ensure that there are no complex sentences? Break long sentences into smaller ones. Divide long and complex sentences into shorter, clearer ones. For example, if the author had written something like, despite the fact that it was raining, comma, which was unexpected, comma, we decided to go for a walk, comma, and we had a great time, full stop. You're a proofreader, you're here now. Make it something like, although it was unexpectedly raining, comma, we decided to go for a walk, full stop. We had a great time, full stop. That's an example. And there are other ways you can rephrase it, but please don't make the mistake of carrying complex sentences and long sentences along. Another way to simplify complex sentences is avoid jargons and cliches. I beg. Use clear language. Always go for straightforward language over using jargons and cliches. For example, I remember when I was taught this in English class. And when I came out, people say, why are you not speaking Fone? Why not? You know how Nigerians think of Fone, big English, you have to sound a certain way, then use bigger grammar. I said, no, by my training, we are trained to speak simpler because the aim of speaking is communication. You want your listener to decode what you're saying and give you feedback. So use clear language. Avoiding jargons means that, for example, if your author has written something like, at the end of the day, we need to think outside the box. It's good when you're saying them. But the correct thing should be, ultimately, we need to be creative or something like that. See, leave all of those cliches, leave them out of the window and out of the work. The thing is, some people might be encountering this book in the next 100 years, except you are trying to preserve those words. by that kind of fiction in that sense. But those kind of words might be so outdated that people at that time be wondering what is the meaning of what do you mean by outside the box, for instance. But apart from that, it makes your work so pedestrian in that sense. Please leave out cliches and jargons. Another way to ensure conciseness is ensure proper punctuation. Please clarify meaning by using proper punctuation. Use punctuation marks correctly to avoid ambiguity so that people don't think one thing, another person think of another thing by reading the same sentence. There's a common listen I see on the internet. Let's eat, comma, grammar, full stop. Oh my gosh. Let's eat, comma, grandma, and let's eat grandma, full stop. Don't they mean two different things? So make sure that you use punctuation marks to correctly explain what you mean. If you want to eat your grandma, then use punctuation to make it clear. If you want to go and eat with your grandma, then you know where to put the punctuation marks. Okay? All right. Now let's go to how to maintain consistency and formatting. Those are the next thing we're going to look at. All right. So to maintain consistency, you must proofread for spelling. In spelling, you must ensure that the spellings are consistent, especially with words that have variations in different continents. Like we have the popular American spelling and meaning to versus the UK meaning, where you have things like color, COLOR, American spelling versus COLOUR in UK spelling. All of that British English and American English, you have to make sure that they are consistent across the work. So don't spell color without a U in certain places and color with a U in certain places in the same work, for instance. Yeah, so that's about spelling. Then punctuations. Please make sure that your punctuations are used to create the meanings that you intend. Don't just flip them anywhere around. Don't. The next thing is hyphenation. Please let them be consistent in hyphenation. Just like your punctuations and your spellings has to be consistent, your hyphenations has to be consistent. Example, there are certain words that are not wrong in themselves, but the way they are hyphenated might differ, and you have to avoid this. Like when you're writing mindset, is it as broken down as two words, mind space set, or mind hyphen set? When you're writing well-being, are you writing well-being as one word, well-being, one word, or well hyphen being? So you have to make sure that anyone you choose, they run the same way throughout the work. The next one to proofread for is capitalization. Please follow consistent rules of capitalization, particularly for titles and headings. Okay, and of course, noun forms and all of that. Also, numbers. Please adhere to consistent rules for writing numbers. If you're writing numbers 1 to 9, which if written in numbers are just going to be one figure, yeah, spell them out. ONE, TWO, all that. All the way from 1 to 9, please spell out the numbers. But if the numerals you're using are 10 and above, double digit, you can use them, in figures. Yeah, so maintain this. Also, abbreviations and acronyms. When you want to use abbreviations and acronyms, provide the definitions of those words at the first mention, the first place they are mentioned. You write them in full and write the abbreviations or acronyms. Then subsequently you can now use the acronyms throughout the work, so that there is a place of first mention where your reader will understand what that means, and then you carry them along with the abbreviations and acronyms as you go. Please ensure this for the author. Okay, now also another thing to do as you start proofreading is to develop a style sheet. Customize a style guide that is specific to the manuscript that you're working on, so that you can track the decisions that you and the author have taken on spelling, punctuation, capitalization, and other stylistic elements. In my style sheet, you ask the author about the kind of English spelling he needs, American or British English, the kind of punctuation you prescribe, and they choose capitalization. All of these things you people have to agree, and it has to be documented. Okay, now also in developing a style sheet, you have to look at references. If the work needs references, you have to use the style sheet as a reference to ensure that there's consistency throughout the proofreading process. Now, there are certain formatting standards we need to look at. Because you're the final editor in that sense, manuscript formatting lies on your table. So how the font is, the size of the font, all matter. For books, you have to use a standard readable font like Times New Roman and the like. And the standard sizes are 12 points. So don't go and use an overly bold font or a tiny font. This is conventional standard, okay? Now, also make sure that the margins are set of your work. So there should be one each margins on each side. One each margins on each side. Set your ruler. Please make sure that this is what you have that work to be by before you turn it in. Also look at your line spacing. Please use double spacing for the main text because it will help with the ability to read. Okay, let it not be so clogged up. Use double spacing for the main text, and also look at all the paragraphs and how they are indented. The first line of every sentence has to be indented. You have to look at this formatting standards. Also for headers and footers, include page numbers in the headers or footers. Okay, these things might vary based on the kind of work, but these are just conventional standards. Okay, now when it comes to works that need citation and references and you need to format them, I know that this might be more for non-fiction, but some fiction also reference people. So you have to ensure that you adhere to style guide. There are three things. Style guides follow the specified instructions for citation and references. So you need to adhere to them. Secondly, be consistent. Ensure there is consistent formatting of citations and references throughout the manuscript. Don't do them haphazardly. Accuracy. Verify the accuracy of all citations and references. Some people will do citations that don't exist. Please, it's your role to make sure that those things are verifiable and referenced. Now, let's take a look at the title page and the sections. Okay, now the title page of a book is where you have the title of the book, the author's name, and the contact information. You must put that book in sections and make sure the title pages are distinct as well. Now, all the other sections clearly outline the sections and chapters with the appropriate headings. If they have subheadings, if they have to be consistently structured. All the sections have to be earmarked properly, so that the chapters will be distinct. Now, you also have to checklist for other things before final review. These are the three things you must check before you are done proofreading. Conduct a final proofreading pass. Get a proofreading pass so that you can catch any remaining errors or inconsistencies. Go through again. Look out for all of things we have discussed again to be sure. Now, number 2, check for formatting. Do a formatting check. Ensure all formatting standards have been applied consistently. Now, also do a readability assessment. Review that manuscript again, proofread again, and look at the overall readability and flow. Is it now sweet and fluid? Is it fun to read now? Right? So you must do a proofreading pass before you finish. You must do a formatting check, and you must do a readability assessment before you finally call it a day. Okay, so action and activity time. I've included a passage that have several grammatical errors below attached here. You are tasked with identifying and correcting these errors. Okay, the corrected version is also provided afterward for your self-assessment. Please don't look at the self-assessment first. Make sure you go ahead and do this work so that you can easily check yourself. Remember, you're doing this for yourself. Okay, so look out for the unproofread passage and the proofread passage and the explanations I gave about the corrections and all that inclusive. Proofreading is the final essential stage in refining any manuscript, and because it focuses on correcting grammatical errors, ensuring clarity, maintaining consistency in style and formatting. When you master this as a proofreader, you can ensure that the manuscript is polished, professional, and ready for publication. What you have learned, we have learned the technical errors that must be caught by a proofreader to make a book a masterpiece. Next, we are going to go to Module 4, and there we're going to learn how to edit fiction writing. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. Go ahead and turn in your work right now, your assessment of yourself, and let's keep this going. Thank you.